Hey everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we'll be looking at the Questyle M15i portable DAC and headphone amp. The M15i falls somewhere in the middle of Questyle's DAC lineup, and it is an upgrade to the original Questyle M15, whom a lot of people loved. And this one typically sells for around $200 US. However, there are currently some great Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals, so check those out below. So maybe I should have waited a little bit before buying this one. But after my experience with my Etsy HA05, I had to hear what this one could do for sure. And I ordered this one around 2 months ago and I've been testing since. Now spoiler, I love this one so much that I've just ordered the more affordable C variant with the Cirrus Logic DAC just yesterday. Let's take a closer look at this one though. The chassis is all aluminum and it feels really nice and well built. A glass panel on the front, on the rear we have the Questyle branding, but I love these rounded off corners. The unit feels really nice in your hand, really comfortable. On one side, we have our input on USB-C, and the other, we have our output, a 4.4mm Pentacon, as well as a 3.5mm TRS. On the side, just one switch, and it's labeled standard or high gain. As for accessories, we also get a USB to USB-C cable, as well as a C to A adapter. As for specs, the M15i's online documentation specifies an updated ESS ES9281AC DAC chip, and a macro shot does reveal an ES9281 Pro, and that supports PCM 768 and DSD 512 sampling rates versus the original M15's PCM 384 and DSD 256 support with that original ES9281AC DAC. Questyle is probably taking advantage of the 9281AC Pro's USB to I2S bridge mode to get those higher sampling rates. I personally don't oversample, but if you do, there you go. We also see a single 48 MHz clock here. Over here we have two LEDs. When the first one is lit, we're on standard gain, and when both are lit, we're on high gain. Another two LEDs down here. When both are off, the DAC isn't receiving any audio signal. One signifies a sampling rate of 48 kHz or below, and when both are on, that signifies a sampling rate above 48 kHz. The I in the model name signifies that this device is certified by Apple's M5 program for compatibility with iPhones and iPads. And let me pause right here. I had, or better yet said, still have a problem with the M15i and my iPad. Now everything was working fine until I upgraded my iPad to iPadOS 26. And now, no audio out of this DAC when connected to my iPad. I then updated to version 26.1, still nothing. The M15i works just fine on my Mac laptop though, and since it had been working just fine on my iPad before the update, I am going to blame Apple for this one. Hopefully a new iPadOS update can resolve my issue. No problems at all on my Windows workstation or on my Android phone, a Google Pixel 8. As for power ratings, Questyle states that the M15i's audio distortion performance and output power have been upgraded compared to previous generations. However, the numbers that they give us are the same as the original M15 for power output at approximately 12 milliwatts at 300 ohms on the 3.5mm, so roughly about 100 milliwatts at 32 ohms, and 23 milliwatts at 300 ohms for the 4.4mm, so roughly around 200 milliwatts there. Now the distortion numbers, however, are published lower at 0.003% versus the original at 0.0045%. But how does the Questyle M15i sound? I first compared the M15i to my $60 Etsy HA05. This one is Cirrus Logic based. The M15i is clearly the more detailed of the two, with the edges of vocals sharper and better defined. On canes, nothing in my way. The snare drum hits just have a little more crisper transients. It's a more believable snare for sure. The background seems darker on the M15i as well, but on very busy passages, the differences are tougher to pick out. But when there's less going on, like on Luis Miguel's No Me Platiques Más, the orchestra gets around 15% larger on the M15i. But there are a few places where I do prefer the HA05. Both of these DACs have great sustain, but the decay lingers slightly longer on the Cirrus-based HA05. Now while not as accurate as the M15i, it is more pleasing on less complicated tracks, more romantic. And this is exactly why I also bought the M15C, which I'll probably get to reviewing in around 2 months. Now onto my second comparison versus the Muse Hi-Fi M5 Ultra, which is more expensive at $300, the Questyle M15i clearly outshines the M5 Ultra when the M5 Ultra is in transistor mode. The M15i has better dynamic hits, deeper bass, and a more natural tone with slightly more detail. Now the detail on the M5 Ultra is also pretty good, but the Questyle edges it out. However, what the M5 Ultra gets you for that extra money is a more holographic sound with its vacuum tube mode. Again, more romantic. So what we get here is a trade-off of accuracy versus musicality. And I have to say portability as well. The Ultra isn't quite as travel friendly as the M15i. Now back to the M15i sound. It is more ESS sounding for sure, but I wouldn't call this one clinical. It does have some warmth in the mids and lows, and I think I would attribute that to Questyle's patented CMA or current mode amplification technology. Now it's hard to say for sure because you can't turn CMA on and off. However, the reason I attribute that warmth to the CMA is that because I also have the AON N7 headphone amp. This is a Class A headphone amp with a low current and high current mode that can be switched off and on, and the M15i has the same characteristics of the N7 on its high current mode. Of course, without the N7's power output. The high current seems to fan things up just a touch without losing detail. A super interesting high-end DAC sound, and I think at its $200 asking price, it's a great choice for an everyday carry. And for sure I can highly recommend the Questyle M15i portable DAC. Now let's see how it compares to the M15C. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button to find out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.